The next accessory organ is the pancreas. The pancreas lies inside the loop or in the curve of the small intestine. If you remember that first part of the small intestine, this is the small intestine here. The first part here, it curves kind of. That first part is what we call the duodenum. So in the loop, in that curve of the duodenum, we have the pancreas that lies here. That is the pancreas here. Now, the pancreas secretes pancreatic juice, and pancreatic juice contain enzymes for digestion. And these enzymes, this pancreatic juice, is carried by the pancreatic duct. You will see here, this is the pancreatic duct that runs right through, runs downwards, and at some point it meets another duct coming here from the gallbladder. This is the gallbladder, which contains bile. It meets this other duct that comes from the gallbladder, so that it joins. So at this point we are having the pancreatic duct and the bile duct, which join together to then form the hepatopancreatic duct, and it forms that juncture and enters the duodenum. After they've joined together, then enter the duodenum, so that it can deliver enzymes inside the duodenum to assist or to continue with digestion, which must have begun in the mouth and then went through the stomach, and it's now happening at the level of the small intestine. Secondly, the pancreas also secretes hormones, insulin and glucagon, which control blood sugar level. And these hormones are secreted by cells that are present, little groups of cells that are found among ordinary cells, other ordinary cells around the pancreas. These little groups of cells form kind of islands. I'm sure you should know what an island is. A body of ground or a huge mass of ground surrounded by a body of water, or a piece of land surrounded by a body of water, like in the ocean we have islands. So these little masses, these little groups of cells are found around the pancreas, just like islands are found inside an ocean among other ordinary cells. So these groups of cells that form the islets, the islands of Langerhans, produce these two hormones, insulin and glucagon, which will then control blood sugar level. We'll see how they function at a later stage. In summary then, the pancreas has two main functions. The first of which is to secrete pancreatic juice, which contains enzymes for digestion. We're going to see it. And the second of which is to secrete the hormones insulin and glucagon, which then control blood sugar levels. The next organ is the liver. The liver is found in the abdominal cavity, somewhere below the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a thin sheath of muscles that is found below the lungs, such that it can assist in inhalation and exhalation. So below the diaphragm, we then have the liver, which partially covers the stomach. This is the stomach here. So the liver partially covers the stomach. It is made up of two lobes. The right lobe, which is larger than the left lobe. So the two lobes of the liver. There are two ducts that leave from the liver. We have the hepatic duct. Remember, ducts are like tubes. We have this tube here, the hepatic duct, which arises from the liver cells. It has fine branches that arise from the liver cells. And we also have the cystic duct. We have the cystic duct, which comes or arises from the gallbladder. Remember that sac-like structure that contains bile, the cystic duct that comes or arises from the gallbladder. And at one point, the hepatic and the cystic duct will then meet somewhere here to form or be continuous with what we call now the bile duct, the common bile duct, which will also continue downwards and meet with the pancreatic duct somewhere here, if you remember, to then form the hepatopancreatic duct, which opens up into the duodenum. This is the duodenum here, and I'm sure we can still see the pancreas form inside that loop of the duodenum. Okay, we'll then look at the functions of the liver. First one, the liver converts glucose. Glucose are single sugar units that are the breakdown products of carbohydrates, the smallest form. So converts glucose, especially if it's in excess, to glycogen. Glycogen is a storage form of polysaccharides in animals. I don't know if it's in grade 11 or grade 10. In plants, polysaccharides are stored in the form of starch, but in animals, polysaccharides are stored in the form of glycogen. So when glucose is in excess, it is then converted by the liver cells under the instruction of the hormone insulin coming from the pancreas to glycogen, which is then stored either inside the liver itself or in the muscles. Secondly, the liver also converts excess glucose to fat and stores it. It then means if you have too much glucose and consequently produce too much glycogen, the excess glycogen will then be converted to fat. That's when you start gaining weight and then you store it. Okay, because probably you've been overfeeding. Or even when you're not overfeeding, the same would happen. And if you're overfeeding, then more fat will be formed. Again, the liver serves as storehouse for minerals such as iron. It also serves as storehouse. That's where we have stored important vitamins such as vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin B12, ascorbic acid. Deamination of excess amino acids occurs in the liver. So the liver deaminates excess amino acids to form another compound called urea. It breaks down amino acids to form urea. And urea is toxic, it is waste product, hence it will be excreted, sent out of the body by the kidneys in the urine. That's why you get that typical smell of urine, because there's urea there or there's uric acid or ammonia. So you get that smell of urine. Those are amino acids. The amino acids are the breakdown products of proteins. So they are further broken down by the liver if it's in excess, so that they can be sent out in the form of urea, which is toxic. The liver, this is actually very important, it detoxifies certain harmful substances to make them harmless. Sometimes you take in toxins or probably poisons or even the medication like paracetamol. Many paracetamol containing medications are being metabolized or broken down by the liver to detoxify. That's why they give too much burden to the liver, and that's why they'll usually advise you not to take too much paracetamol containing medication like Grandpa, like Panado, ibuprofen, Brufen. They cause serious damage to the liver because the liver has to work too much to detoxify it. And sometimes they actually end up damaging cells of the liver. Again, the liver secretes bile. Bile is that greenish substance that will then be stored in the gallbladder. We're going to look at bile in the next section, I believe so. So it will secrete bile and it will be collected through the hepatic duct and pass through the cystic duct and get stored inside the gallbladder, and from the cystic duct again it will be released to join the hepatic duct to form the common bile duct and pass down to join with the pancreatic duct to then form the hepatopancreatic duct and released inside the duodenum when it is required for digestion. Sorry. So there are three major functions we can summarize for the liver. The liver serves as storage. We looked at minerals and amino and vitamins. The liver serves for deamination, breakdown of amino acids. The liver also serves for detoxification. We could have included its function in sugar metabolism, blood sugar metabolism. The next is bile. Bile is not necessarily any structure or organ, but it assists in digestion. Otherwise, bile is simply a liquid, which is yellowish green, an alkaline liquid. Alkalines are opposites to acids. It has no enzymes and it's secreted by the liver cells and stored inside that sac-like structure that we call the gallbladder. This is the gallbladder. It looks greenish because it has that green, yellow-green liquid inside of it that we call bile. Like I said in one other slide, it is that structure, the gallbladder is that structure whereby if it bursts, usually we find it on chicken livers, if it bursts and the yellowish green liquid inside there spills out and touches the meat anywhere, that meat will be rendered bitter. So that's what you call bile. Now, what then are the functions of bile? The first one, bile is a liquid. It means it contains water. So the water inside bile helps the easy movement of food inside the alimentary canal in the small intestines, to be precise. Secondly, since bile is alkaline, like we said, opposite of acid, since bile is alkaline, it helps to render neutral the acid food that comes from the stomach, because when food leaves the mouth, it goes to the stomach. Inside the stomach, the environment there is acidic thanks to hydrochloric acid. So the stomach wall is adapted with that level of acidity. But when we now come to the intestine, the intestinal walls are not adapted to the acid. The acid in the food, when it gets to the intestine, the acid can burn the intestine, can cause lesions to the intestinal wall. So to be able to counter that acidity, the bile, being alkalinic, will now merge up with the acid to try and render it neutral. A neutral pH is the pH of pure water, such that the walls of the intestine are protected. We saw alkaline also being produced by the goblet cells that are found among the cells of the villi, by the crypt of Lieberkühn, and the glands of Benigni. So all of them also assist with the alkaline coming from the bile, 4 places already, that will then help to neutralize the acid chime that comes from the stomach. The next function, bile emulsifies fats. It means it breaks down fat. Fat is not easily digested like other food substances. That's why the first part where fat is being digested will be in the small intestine. Meanwhile, proteins and carbohydrates would have started their own level of digestion before or prior to their entry into the small intestine. But fat would not experience any digestion until it reaches the small intestine, where for the first time when mixed with bile will get emulsified or will get broken up into droplets, so that it can now open up and spread for enzymes to now come and act on it. Lipases, enzymes that break down fats. The next, bile salts help with the absorption of fat itself and also the absorption of vitamins like the ADEK, A-D-E-K. You should always remember them as ADEK. Fat-soluble vitamins. These are vitamins that cannot dissolve in water, and hence if they can't dissolve in water, they can't be absorbed by the body. Since they cannot dissolve in water, bile helps these vitamins to dissolve in fat so that they can then be absorbed by the body. The last one, bile is slightly antiseptic. It means it can kill pathogens, disease-causing microorganisms, or it can kill decomposers, like bacteria, for example. Being antiseptic and killing these decomposers, they prevent the decomposition, the rotting of food in the small intestine. Though some decomposition still occurs, but the extent to which it occurs is being reduced by the presence of bile, which destroys these microorganisms. So those are the functions of bile.